On Australia Day, 26 January 1966, three siblings vanished from Glenelg Beach, Adelaide, in a case that would forever alter the nation's sense of security. It was a typically warm summer's day, a public holiday that drew thousands to the coast, seeking relief from the heat in the cool waters of St. Vincent Gulf. The morning began with the gentle hum of a holiday, but by late morning, the foreshore was a bustling scene. Families staked out spots on the sand, and a steady stream of trams and buses delivered more beachgoers to the popular resort town. The atmosphere was festive and carefree. The exact timing is crucial to understanding what happened next. It was late morning, the sun was high, and the beach was at its busiest. In this sea of people, a sense of community and safety prevailed, a feeling that would soon be shattered. Jane, 9, Arnna, 7, and Grant, 4, known as the Beaumont Children, headed for the beach. They were bright, responsible children, and Jane, the eldest, was considered old enough to look after her younger siblings for a short trip. Like many locals then, they went on their own. The journey was a simple 5-minute bus ride from their home in Somerton Park to the bustling hub of Glenelg. It was a trip they had made before, a small adventure in a world that felt safe and predictable. They left home around 10 a.m. with just enough money for bus fare and a treat, intending a short swim and play before returning on the 12 p.m. bus. Their mother, Nancy, expected them home for lunch. Late that morning, several witnesses saw them playing happily near the Collie Reserve and the jetty. They appeared relaxed, splashing in the shallows and enjoying the holiday atmosphere, giving no indication of any distress. Around midday, a shopkeeper at Wenzel's Bakery, located near the beach, reported that Jane had purchased a meat pie and a pasty. This detail, noted at the time, seemed routine. However, it was later claimed she paid with a £1 note, a detail that remains unverified and contested. The plan was simple: catch the bus home in the early afternoon. The children were due back on either the 12 p.m. or the 2 p.m. bus. Their mother wasn't initially worried when they missed the first one, assuming they'd opted for a later ride. But when they weren't on the 2 p.m. bus, Nancy Beaumont went to the bus stop herself. As the minutes ticked by and the next bus arrived without them, a knot of parental fear began to tighten. She checked the nearby beach areas, hoping to spot them. By 3 p.m., with no sign of the children, their father, Jim, returned from a work trip. Concern quickly escalated to panic. Together, they drove to Glenelg, frantically searching the foreshore, the kiosks, the change rooms, and the lawns, their calls lost in the holiday noise. At 5:30 p.m., with the sun beginning to dip and the crowds thinning, the Beaumonts reported their children missing. Police were notified that afternoon, and patrols and inquiries began without delay, understanding the urgency of the situation. Officers immediately began coordinating searches along the vast expanse of the beach and its surrounding dunes. They started the painstaking process of speaking with witnesses, trying to piece together a timeline from the fragments of a chaotic holiday afternoon. By evening, the disappearance was the most urgent news in the state. Alerts spread through radio, television, and switchboards across Adelaide, transforming a local family's private terror into a public crisis. In the initial hours, reports emerged mentioning an unknown, fair-haired man seen with the children. These accounts, provided by various witnesses, were inconsistent and have remained unverified for decades, forming the basis of a mystery that endures. 4A, Brawl Shot Group, Group 16, distribute, equally, 4A, 1 Brawl Shot, Media 16, map Zoom Australia to South Australia to Adelaide to Glenelg Vintage Cartography 4B. Change speaker to narrator Y1 4B.1 vo. The search area was vast, yet the focus quickly narrowed. From the continent of Australia to the state of South Australia to the coastline of Adelaide, and finally to the few square kilometers around Glenelg Beach. Somewhere in the narrow window of time between their happy play in the late morning and that missed bus home, the children had vanished. They were not seen by their family again, leaving behind only questions and a silence that has lasted a lifetime. It was Australia Day, summer of 1966 in Adelaide. The sun was bright, the air was warm, and the Glenelg foreshore was teeming with a festive holiday crowd. Amidst this scene of carefree summer life, a search began, one that would soon grip the nation. The response was immediate and massive. Police formed long, sweeping lines, their boots sinking into the sand as they moved in unison. Alongside them, civilian volunteers combed the dunes and dense coastal scrub, while patrol boats methodically swept the shoreline, their engines a low hum against the sound of the waves. The initial hope was for a swift resolution, a simple case of children lost in the crowd. As the search on the beach intensified, house-to-house inquiries began along the quiet, sun-drenched streets near the foreshore. Officers went door to door, clipboards in hand, their questions methodical and repetitive. They asked residents if they had seen anything, heard anything, noticed anyone out of place. Witness interviews started to build a fragmented picture. Reports emerged of an unknown man seen with children near Collie Reserve and Jetty Road. However, these accounts were often vague and sometimes contradictory. The descriptions of the man varied, and the exact timeline remained elusive. Each lead was logged, but nothing was confirmed. Based on these varied descriptions, a generic silhouette sketch was created. It was never intended to be a portrait of a specific individual, but rather an indicative aid for officers, a generalized shape to keep in mind during their inquiries. It was a tool born of necessity, a placeholder for a face they did not have. A reported bakery purchase that morning drew significant attention. A witness claimed to have seen the children buying a meat pie and a pasty. This detail, though unverified, led investigators to examine paper bags and potential receipts from local shops, searching for any tangible link. Public transport became a key focus. The children's planned journey involved a short bus ride, so all potential travel routes were meticulously mapped. Drivers and conductors were questioned at length about their morning runs, asked to recall any unusual passengers or interactions. Every reported detail was pursued, but none could be definitively verified. Back at the station, investigators built complex timelines from these alleged sightings and public transport timetables. Pins, string, and handwritten notes crisscrossed a large map on the wall, a visual representation of a puzzle with too many missing pieces. They were attempting to construct a narrative from whispers and shadows. From the witness accounts, a working theory emerged about a friendly man who might have gained the children's trust amidst the noise and excitement of the festive crowd. This was never more than a line of inquiry, a hypothesis to guide the investigation in the absence of concrete facts. Public appeals through radio and newspapers brought a flood of tips from a concerned community. The switchboards were inundated. Officers worked tirelessly to sort through each reported lead, but many were duplicative, based on hearsay or conflicted with other information, creating a mountain of data to sift through. The investigation was constrained by the technology of the era. With no CCTV and only minimal forensic sampling techniques available, the case relied almost entirely on human memory and meticulous handwritten notes. Every detail, no matter how small, was recorded in notebooks and filed away. Detectives reviewed diaries, ticket stubs, and bus transfers, the mundane paperwork of daily life that might, with luck, link a person to a specific time and place. Each item was a potential breadcrumb, a small piece of a world they were desperately trying to rebuild. As hours turned into days, the physical searches expanded. Teams moved beyond the beach, establishing grids to sweep through nearby reserves, sandhills, and even backyard sheds. Small flags were planted in the ground to mark completed sectors, a testament to the methodical but fruitless effort. Along the water, the search was just as rigorous. Boats and divers revisited designated zones, their patterns adjusted based on charts of tides and currents. It was a methodical, ongoing process, driven by the slim hope that the sea might yield a clue. Yet despite the unprecedented scale and effort of the search, no confirmed breakthrough emerged. Crucially, no personal belongings, no towels, bags, or clothes were ever recovered. Each reported clue remained just that, a report requiring careful and painstaking verification that often led nowhere. The investigation pressed on through the days and nights, measured, neutral, and relentlessly thorough. Every reported lead, from the plausible to the improbable, was pursued across Adelaide and the coast as a city held its breath, waiting for an answer that would not come. After the initial headlines faded, the questions did not. An official inquiry began, a careful, methodical process that remains unresolved to this day. The investigation would become one of the largest in Australian history, a sprawling puzzle of leads, dead ends, and enduring mystery. Through the late 1960s and beyond, police meticulously reviewed countless leads. The media, reflecting public desperation for answers, named various persons of interest over the years. However, despite intense scrutiny, none of these connections were ever officially confirmed or led to charges. One persistent debate centered on a so-called 12-minute window, a critical gap in the timeline where the children's movements were unaccounted for. Investigators and analysts have long argued whether the known events could realistically fit within this narrow time frame. It remains a point of contention. Theories range from an opportunistic abduction to more elaborate, premeditated scenarios. All remain unproven speculation. In 1968, a series of letters, allegedly from Jane and a man holding the children, brought a brief, false hope. They were later exposed as a cruel and elaborate hoax by a teenage prankster. In 1966, forensic tools were limited. Investigators relied on traditional methods, examining items like receipts and bags from the bakery where the children were reportedly seen. Later reviews re-examined this physical evidence with vastly improved methods, seeking faint signals in the decades-old noise. Tips and theories have resurfaced over the decades, often fueled by renewed media attention. Some of these prompted significant targeted searches, mobilizing resources and briefly raising public hopes. Yet none have ever delivered a definitive breakthrough. In the initial years, inquiries closely examined a suspected local offender. He was interviewed and investigated, but ultimately, no charges followed due to a lack of direct evidence. Years later, a convicted offender in another state was also reviewed by police as a potential person of interest. His history and movements were scrutinized, but again, the evidence remained insufficient to formally link him to the case. Periodic media coverage has been crucial in reviving public interest and keeping the case from going cold. These revivals often flooded police hotlines with new information, valuable for generating leads, yet ultimately inconclusive. Authorities were forced to consider multiple, often conflicting, lines of inquiry in parallel. Each was clearly flagged as a possibility, a working theory to be tested, not an established finding. Later efforts, particularly in the 2010s, included the use of ground-penetrating radar and controlled digs at specific locations, including a factory site nominated by new witnesses. These modern techniques offered a new way to investigate old leads. During these excavations, various items were recovered and sent for forensic testing, where appropriate. Despite the advanced technology and renewed effort, none of the findings have yielded a confirmed resolution or a direct link to the children. Advances in DNA technology and data analytics prompted fresh comparisons of existing evidence against modern databases. To date, no matching profile has ever been found, leaving a critical scientific avenue unexplored for want of a sample. Across the decades, from 1966 to today, timelines were painstakingly rebuilt, original witnesses were re-interviewed to check for memory drift, and old theories were revisited through the lens of new investigative standards. Despite this extensive, multi-generational work by law enforcement and the enduring attention of the public, no charges have ever been laid. the case officially remains open, and any solid, verifiable first-hand information still matters. A tragedy that reshaped Australia, felt in homes, schools, and along the sands of Glenelg. In its wake, child safety awareness grew. Families set meeting points, schools improved supervision, and communities watched out together. Police practice evolved. Stronger record-keeping, faster alerts, and coordinated task forces for missing children. Public appeals became more structured. Verified details released to help, not hinder, investigations. Even today, tips still arrive. Memories, photos, or conversations from that summer submitted to Crime Stoppers. South Australia police conduct periodic reviews, fresh eyes re-examining leads with improved tools. Science offers hope. Trace materials can be retested as DNA methods become more sensitive. Modern forensics, from touch DNA to refined profiling, may yet help long silent evidence speak. Where lawful and ethical familial DNA and database searches can link distant relatives and open new lines of inquiry. Digital forensics helps too. Scanned archives, enhanced imagery, and timeline analytics refining what we know. Through it all, compassion matters. We think of the Beaumont family with empathy, dignity, and respect for their enduring grief. We also acknowledge the community that never stopped caring. If you hold verified first-hand information, share it with authorities or Crime Stoppers. Never spread rumors. Small truths, shared responsibly, can still make a difference. For Jane, Arnna, and Grant, and for a nation that remembers.